Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger and my friends. Testament is now live for Guilty Gear Strive, and I'd figure I'd make this video and give some early impressions on the character. And I have to say, early impressions are, well, very positive. As far as the DLC characters go, I think Testament is my favorite DLC character since Gold Lewis. A lot of what this character is about speaks very well to me, not the least of which is the range. Testament's range is quite a bit higher than the average characters, let's put it that way, right? This is just a stand slash, this is nothing special. But as you can see here, the range is very big. And even if you were to do it, say, just at ranges that would barely miss at, well, forward heavy slash won't miss. It's a much longer range hitbox, has a little bit of anti-air property to it, as it can rip people out of the air that are low to the ground. And you might notice here, you don't see counter or anything, right? But it is bouncing the enemy on a regular hit. So something like forward heavy slash into the projectile is a regular natural combo. You don't need anything special to do it. And that's really cool. Just to put the range into perspective, how about? So someone like Potemkin, obviously very big normals, right? That's one of the best traits of the character. Stand slash, one of his best buttons. At a range where his stand slash would miss here, Testament can hit. So just to really hammer home just the absolute absurdity of the range Testament's working with. How about stand heavy slash for Potemkin? It's one of the biggest buttons in the game. It's absolutely absurd, right? It's scary to get hit by this move, flat out. And Testament forward heavy slash has more range. So Potemkin's already one of the best ranged normals characters in the game, and Testament outranges him. Although, to be fair, if Potemkin whiffs this move, it's not too much of a big deal versus, say, Testament here. If you whiff this move here, forward heavy slash, you are stuck in that animation for a long while. Like, I'm holding up here, right? And basically, you're going to get hit if you whiff, so make sure you don't miss. Use it with surgical precision. So we have the big crazy normals, and that's great. That's truly fantastic, right? And it seems to play into the greater theme I'm noticing from Testament in basically screen control. So the lesson I'm learning in these early hours of Testament is Testament's definitely all about screen control, and big buttons are a part of it, and also counterplay with buttons, and whiff punishing and all that's a big part of it. So stand heavy slash does not have the range of stand slash. So normally it's a little bit backwards. Usually the heavier buttons go further in this game, right? The reason is because there is a massive, massive disjointed hitbox on this move. If you're looking on the screen right now, the part where Testament can be hit is Testament. Everything else is just the heavy slash. So if you're up against someone who just pokes over and over and over, depending on the character, some characters they can use 6P to do it because it has the upper body invincibility. But if you're looking specifically to just be outside the range and just punish it, like as you can see here, Testament's doing the move, and stand slash, because it has the extra range, you can get hit with the scythe, right? But stand heavy slash, not so much. You can use it to kind of freely whiff punish other people's moves and keep yourself fairly safe, so very strong. Now mid-screen control, add this with the projectile suite. So the projectile slash goes across the ground, heavy slash goes upwards in the air, and if you hold it, it becomes a full screen projectile, and then turns into the succubus only when either the move just fully expires or when it gets close to the enemy. And naturally you have the air versions as well. And heavy slash in the air is a downward angled fireball, by the way. So you can actually live out your Akuma fantasies, I guess, if you want to just whip angled fireballs. And they're very nice and very slow, and you can kind of run behind them, and it's just really good. And it also seemingly gives an opportunity to play lane that's kind of rare in this game, like instant air dash fireballs here. Instant air dash backwards, that is, right? You can kind of just hide behind the giant wall that is the fireball. Because characters that are trying to work their way in, unless they're like really low to the ground like Giovanna or something, they're going to get smacked by it. And of course you can tiny delay to make sure it is more level with the ground, so people like your Giovannas cannot get around it. You just got to show a little bit of patience and wait for the fall. But this just seems really, really good. Like, obviously you can see the big flashing danger. The game doesn't want you to do runaway, but it doesn't hurt maybe that the option is there and you can do it every now and then, right? Another fun thing is, due to the mechanics, Testament definitely has a lot of fun gimmicks. but you don't even need to bust into the mechanics to do it. Like I notice here, like something basic, right? Like they do a jump in and then, you know, go low. Like a lot of characters can do that. However, since Testament's jump dust here has a little bit of a float state, you can actually bonk people in the head trying to block this exact setup. So once again here, all right, I block high, then immediately go low. It's like, it's muscle memory. You're going to do it. However, now you can see my inputs are on here, right? Same deal. If I just try to crouch block reflexively after blocking the jumping heavy slash, I actually get bonked by that dust. It's basically a fuzzy, right? Like I cannot return to crouch block fast enough, and it's an overhead. So if I'm down backing, then I get smacked. So I feel like that's going to lead to some interesting gimmicks over time. And speaking of other little weird gimmicks, the crow. So you probably know by now, if you do any move that's projectile, it'll place the succubus on the screen. And when the succubus is on the screen, that's where the crow will go attack. Normally the angle is not as ideal, right? So if you want to hit a more downwards angle, then you use the succubus. Although, if for whatever reason the crow's gone and then comes back to you, it comes back to you, then goes up, right? So if you shoot it again, it'll just stay at the angle. So it's a weird way to use the crow, I guess, and apply the stain state. Also, speaking of the stain state, a lot of the early promotional material about Testament saying, oh, certain moves will trigger the stain state. So the thing is, certain moves that trigger the stain state is like every move, basically. All your normals, all that kind of stuff. The only things that really don't seem to trigger it are the projectiles themselves. That's about it, at least in my early testing. But it lets you do a lot of fun things, like say you have the stain state on, it lets you go for a quick overhead. The overhead then explodes the stain state, and then you can do a full combo from there. And as you can see here, it makes it way less negative. So that was just both of us jumping at the same time. So even if for whatever reason it gets blocked, like it's not the end of the world, right? Because uncharged dust is very unsafe. And this makes it very safe. So it lets you go for otherwise riskier engagements than you might normally want to do. And very handy is no matter what, if it hits, it always seems to pop the enemy up. So you can just go for things you normally wouldn't go for. Like say normally close slash does not combo into the charged version of the up projectile. Like unless it was like a counter hit, but we don't have a counter hit to work with here. But with the stain state, I can visually confirm the hit and then go into the charged projectile. And then it launches them up and then we get more stuff from there. So that's a quick example, right? But results speak for themselves there. Also, real quick while we're here, hey, this is the new White House stage. Looks really cool, right? The thing about this stage is it has way more transitions than every other stage. Every other stage is like the center and like left and right, right? So we're broken into the right side. Now if we switch again, and also a nice little transition with exploding. Here's another stage. It's not the left side. We transition again. Here's another stage. This is not the center or the left, right? We keep going. We transition again. Another breaking through the wall here. Here's another stage. Like the White House has so many more stages than every other thing. Here's another stage. This is like a rally. You can see President Vernon's like in the background giving a speech. And yeah, there's just a lot of stages on the White House stage. A lot more time and effort. Now we're finally back to normal, right? A lot more time and effort went into this stage than like every other stage. Now, the overhead and low projectiles, those don't seem to help as much. One thing I noticed here is the overhead version is definitely a few frames slower than the low version. It takes just a little bit longer to come out. And if the opponent is just like running at you, it'll try to track, but it can't just track that well. They'll be able to run past. Also, keep in mind the moves are actually pretty unsafe. As you can see here, I'm getting punished from a pretty decent distance away, even considering the pushback, right? So some characters, they'll be able to freely punish it at like any range other than near full screen, depending on their overall speed, so just beware on that. Still, it is nice to have a overhead and low option pretty much anywhere on the screen. Yeah, and just a purely neutral thing, big normals, The fireballs control all sorts of weird manner of the screen. That's really good. Unless you have a rare bit of runaway that, for the most part, doesn't exist in this game. And this character is just meant to control mid-screen. Now, here's the flip. Since the character has such dominant normals and ability to control mid-screen, there is basically no defense. Like, yeah, you can 6P. Everyone can 6P. And the 6P doesn't seem that bad. The angle's pretty decent for it. But besides that, and you do have the one invincible reversal, you got nothing to work with here. And thing to note here about that invincible reversal as well is the startup is pretty slow. At the very least, it's not one of the faster supers in the game. The opponent will definitely be pretty easily able to safe jump this in a lot of situations, or maybe otherwise bait it out. Not to say never do it, I guess. It is still invincible, right? But seemingly enough, it's not going to be one of the better reversals. Besides all the other stuff, there seems to be some weird particulars, like the old bites here. So the low one and the overhead one do the same damage, but not always in the same situations. So in this version here, I do just stand kick into sweep into the low one, does 80 damage. But now if I do the heavy one, it does 98 damage, which is a fair bit more for the exact same input, right? So apparently if the top bitey hits you while you're on the ground, it does more damage than if the low bitey hits you on the ground. Now, why does it work that way? You tell me. I don't know, but there it is. Some other miscellaneous stuff like Testament jump kick is Yori's Taco. A lot of fighting games these days seem to be looking for King of Fighters for inspiration. And sure enough, it's a very easy cross-up. It hits all the way behind Testament and a little bit in front of Testament as well. So it just kind of covers everything, basically. I do like Testament seemingly has like kind of a create your own offense sort of deal. Like I go for a basic combo, applies the succubus is there, then I can shoot the bird, and apply the stay state, and then go from there. Or I can do the first hit held, it'll connect, and then force the enemy to be knocked back, and then they have to wake up into the projectile, which of course at which point, like you can follow and start pressuring after the fact. Also still applies the succubus. So you can go for all sorts of teleport shenanigans as well. So at this admittedly very early stage of the character's development, I just find Testament really neat. I like the options, I like the range, I like the normals. I like pretty much everything I'm seeing. It seems like a very inventive character and one you can have a lot of your own personal expression in because there's a million possible routes for combos, pressure, setups, all that kind of stuff. Thanks to the stain state, thanks to the succubus, and like teleport gimmicks and all that kind of stuff, on top of just playing pure footsies and neutral, which I think Testament's going to excel at. So at this early stage, all I can really say is Testament, so far, 2 thumbs up. Stay tuned to the channel. I'll have combo videos for you, bigger, proper guides soon enough, and a lot more Guilty Gear Strive coverage. And until then, well, I guess we're at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Guilty Gear.